Hello and welcome to my review of all of the new Tyranid releases for Warhammer 40,000 from Games Workshop. Now we've come to the end of all of the individual reviews for these units and kits, so now I thought I'd do like a full review of all of the kits and things individually. I'm not sure it's warranted to do a review of every single new Tyranid release for 10th edition, but you know what? I'll do it. So in the next video we will have all of the Leviathan miniatures in the video as well, making an appearance. I just thought I would make a video reviewing all of the kits individually, and thank you for all the positive feedback for previous full army reviews. I've taken that on board. So I will be picking up some of these models, and yes, you'll see my hands in the video and things like that. I know one or two people are here for my hands. Anyway, that being said, I thought this release of Tyranids was pretty good, actually, with the exception of the Codex, which is more of like a 10th edition thing that I need to get past. I thought it was a good release. We had, if we don't include the fact that the Termagants are, you know, pretty much the same kit as we found in the Leviathan box game, then it was pretty good. So I don't know why for the past sort of couple of years or so Games Workshop have been deciding to release all of their new releases for a faction on one day, but they did do that with the Tyranids. I staggered picking up the new releases by only leaving out the Gene Stealers and the Termagants, because the Termagants I knew were the same kind of as the Leviathan box set, but I was able to pick up you know, the Hormagaunts, the Norn Emissary, the Death Leaper, the Neurolictor, the Lictor, the Biovore and the Codex all in one go, which was pretty good. In a way that was the best strategy for me, because it allowed me time to build these Hormagaunts first and then move on to the Gene Stealers and finally the Termagants. We will have a look at these miniatures, I say individually. Let's start off with the Norn Emissary. We might as well. You know, the sort of, I say elephant in the room, big Gribbly in the room. I just affected my nice display, but oh well. So yeah, this is the Norn Emissary. There's a few of these models, like the Biovore, the Death Leaper, I think even the Lictor and this Norn Emissary, and I think the Gene Stealers, that are out of stock on Games Workshop's web store right now. So they're very, very popular, or Games Workshop just haven't made enough because, like I said before, they chose to release all of them on one day rather than stagger them. But the Norn Emissary, it's a nice model. It hasn't got that many parts, which is good in a way, because it means that you can sort of build it quite quickly, and you do have you know, two options: building it this way as a Norn Emissary, or building it as the Norn Assimilator. I built mine as the Norn Emissary. I like the ranged weaponry it has on it, you know, the psychic weaponry, much more than the melee focused Assimilator. So that's why I picked this one. It's a nice model. It's big, I guess, in sort of Tyranid terms. It's of course nowhere near as big as like a Dimachieron, for instance, right here, you know, but then again, you know, this model cost me £95 5 years ago. So in today's money, or in today's sort of Forge World inflation markup, you'd probably see the Dimachieron costing maybe £150–160 minimum. So yeah, probably double the price. Still very fun model to put together, especially that tail. But yeah, this is what we've got at the moment as the big Gribbly. The only model that kind of comes very close is the Death Leaper, which I'll pick up in a moment, and that's really only because of that talon that it's got raised upwards, and it's on a bigger scenic base, arguably. You know, the Norn Emissary is on a scenic base, but I think it works quite well. Some of the pictures show it near a Wraith Lord, and it looks, you know, way bigger than a Wraith Lord, but in reality, it's not as big as you'd expect it to be. You know, with a discount, you could probably pick this up for about £56 or so, and I think for 50 odd quid is not too bad for this big Gribbly. Whether you need one in your Tyranid army is another matter, but I very much like it. It's grown on me, and it's just nice to see Tyranids with a big Gribbly for this release, rather than just updated units and miniatures. As I said, I mentioned the Death Leaper, or should I say Dua Leaper. I wasn't massively keen on this model, and again it was a bit of a pain, the skirt area to put together, but I've certainly warmed to it over time, over these past few weeks, months even, and yeah, it's not too bad now. Is it the Lictor that I kind of dream of and things? No, not really. I think the current Lictor model just over there is a fantastic kit with 3 different poses and some options. So if you want a Lictor and kind of want to call it a Death Leaper, I don't think you'd have any issues just saving yourself sort of £7.50 and going for the Lictor model. The Lictor model's so good, I will be picking up the other 2 poses for it. So that just testifies how good I think that model is. But the Death Leaper kind of came out of nowhere, which is quite ironic because it's a Lictor. But yeah, nice model in the end. Turned out quite well. A little bit of a pain to put together. The Neuro Lictor over here, I haven't warmed to it as much as the Death Leaper, but certainly seeing it in the grey, my typical grey colour scheme, has changed my opinion somewhat, because on the paint scheme and on the box and things, pictures, you see this big long tail. It's got a very, very long tail for a Lictor. They paint it really quite bright white, and that detracts from, the fact that it's got legs. Like, I'm not a big fan of these necromorph type arms with fewer digits than a regular Lictor. It's the same as the Death Leaper. The Death Leaper has fewer digits than the regular Lictor. But anyway, I don't know whether we needed that, but we've got one. So they were the Lictor models. Games Workshop have hit the ground running with a number of Lictor models. I don't know whether they can bring out any more, but another model that kind of hit the mark but missed the mark, for me at least, was the Biovore. Now, it hit the mark in the sense that the old Biovore model is very old now, looks awful, I think. Some people might like that classic look, but it just wasn't as big as I was expecting. Is it bigger than the old model? I think so, probably. So in that case, it wins. Is it a decent price? Yeah, £30, not too bad. You've got your Spore Mines with it. You've got dual build options. But the thing is, the Pyrovore miniature looks better. I think you can actually build it as the Pyrovore and then just change the top weapon and have it with its legs all, on the floor, rather than this sort of, spider crab thing that's going to fall over. I think it should be bracing. Anything with a heavy weapon on it should be bracing rather than just tipping over. But yeah, an all right price point, and and the rules are all right for it as well. The 48-inch range is crazy compared to the Exocrine even. So they were the sort of standout miniatures in this release. The Emissary, the Lictor with its 3 variants, the Death Leaper, the Neuro Lictor, and the Biovore / Pyrovore. Now we get into the kind of bread and butter of your Tyranids. And what better way to start than to talk about those Gene Stealers? Absolutely fantastic. If you're like me and you have a Gene Stealers and you have a Gene Stealer cult army, you will be over the moon with these new Gene Stealers. If you have just picked up a new Terminator box set with the larger size Terminators, you'll also be over the moon, because these go really, really well with those new Terminators. Thing is, with the Terminators, you have options. With these Gene Stealers, you don't really have options other than to cut off the plugs of the arms, of all of the arms, and then potentially get some decent poses and things with them. It's possible, you can do it, but they'll never look quite as good, I don't think, as their predetermined poses and the arms that they've selected for them. They really do work, and I'm just showing you this one that is kind of trying to give you a hug, but with two of the different type of arms, you know, the claws and the hand. It looks really odd, but it shouldn't work, but it does. But you've got loads of cool poses like this one here with this Gene Stealer leaping. It's got this one arm on the pipe, and then these claws are ready to rip and tear. It's just fantastic. I mean, this is what I always imagined sort of Gene Stealers would be looking like. Not the old, you know, mould line ridden Gene Stealers that we've had for many years, and it was really a very nice sort of, I say, swan song to them. I just wish there were more options, more posability and things without having to kind of mod them yourself. But you know, if you've got Gene Stealer cults and if you've never had Gene Stealers for Tyranids, absolute fantastic pickup. Yeah, they are pricey points wise, but they're a bit survivable, and they are horrific in close combat. Speaking of horrific in close combat, well, maybe, we've got these Hormagaunts right here. Much like the Gene Stealers, these are in some incredible leaping poses, very fast. It really gives that sense of, you know, the 10-inch movement that they have. And remember, these guys can move, advance and still charge, and that's what you want from them. Yes, they're a bit squidgy and vulnerable, but they look so cool bounding over the battlefield. I think that's a very good set. The least number of spare parts throughout all of these sets, well, not including the Death Leaper that has 0, or the Neurolictor, of course, is the Hormagaunts. They only have, I think, 4 spare heads in the box. You don't get any different arms and things. Again, posability, you could kind of cut the plugs off those arms and change them up a little bit. That might work. But the thing is, you know, all of their leg poses and body poses and tails are all going to be the same as these if you do pick up a second box. And finally, we'll leave the best till... No, we won't. Finally, we'll talk about these Termagants over here. Yes, they may look familiar, and the reason is because they're exactly the same Termagants as in the Leviathan box set, but now with 3 extra weapons. I say 3 extra kind of heavy weapons. You may have... you may recognise this weapon from like the Barb Gaunts. There is one of these, they call it a shard launch, I think it is. One of these in there, and then there's a spike rifle and another one which I just cannot remember. But you've got the flesh borers, I think, and the Termagant devourer weapons, and the spine fists as well. You get all spine fists you need to build all 10 of them with the spine fists, or the main weapons, or the flesh devourers, as well as those 3 heavy weapons. So it's a nice little upgrade set, and I can see why Games Workshop have just merely used the same sprues from the Leviathan set, but given you a weapon upgrade sprue as well on top of it. And that leads me to the end of the review and my summary. I think this range has a lot of potential. I'm glad they made the models that they did. There are still a couple of miniatures out there in the range that they could upgrade, but overall I'm happy with the result. Not as groundbreaking or as new as the Necrons release from a few years ago, and there's no sign of any really big knight-sized Griblies anywhere, but overall I'm pretty happy with what they've come up with. There seems to be just enough positivity in what they've accomplished than the negativity that brings it down. Of course, talked about the negativity from my own humble opinion of like the Neurolictor's tail, of the Death Leaper's skirt, of the size of the Biovore, and possibly the size of the Norn Emissary, and maybe the reusing of the Termagants. But there are more things that outweigh that, such as the incredible poses of the Gene Stealers and the Hormagaunts, the multiple options of the Lictor, and that the Norn Emissary exists simply as a new big Tyranid creature. But what do you guys think of all of these individual Tyranid releases? As I say, I will be back in the next video covering all of the Tyranid models completely, including the Leviathan minis. And if you'd like to see me back again for a full review of every single individual new release of the Space Marines, well, you know where to support the channel. And I hope I'm able to bring you that video one day. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Put your thoughts and opinions down below. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching. For the Norn Queen.